Hey there TLDR viewers, so as I mentioned in a recent video and as I've relentlessly shared on Instagram, I'm currently in Italy, hence the gross audio. So in order to keep you guys updated, Zac and Ben have been manning the fort on the podcast and they explained exactly what happened yesterday. I know people sometimes don't like these podcast episodes, but it was this or nothing, so Ben and Zac dive in our normal TLDR style. So let me hand right over to Ben in the podcast.
From TLDR, this is Too Long Didn't Read.
That was a brilliant intro. Thank you very much.
Okay, no worries. Sound a bit different to Jack. Obviously, Jack is away this week, so instead of doing a video on this, me and Zac are just going to talk amongst ourselves about the big news story of the day, which is the verdict from the Supreme Court. Don't worry, this is just a one-off. This isn't going to be us trying to move the podcast onto the main channel. It's just we'd rather report on it, and as Jack's away, this is the best way we can do that. So yeah, what's happened today, Zac? What's been going on?
So it's Tuesday today for us. I don't know when the video is coming out.
Yeah.
And at 10:30, the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that Boris Johnson's prorogation was both justiciable and unlawful.
Yes.
So justiciable in the sense that the Supreme Court found that it was subject to judicial review, and unlawful in that it's illegal, not lawful.
Yeah, and all 11 Supreme Court justices ruled the same way, which was that it wasn't right, that it wasn't legal. So there's no ambiguity on this one. So originally, when they took it to the Supreme Court, the decision was made that all 11 Supreme Court justices would be sitting to hear this one, and the sort of thought process behind that was that they didn't want people to be able to make the argument that if a different grouping of justices were sitting, that there would be we'd arrive at sort of a different conclusion. But obviously, people can't make that argument anymore because all 11 are sitting, and we've kind of taken it to its logical conclusion, which is that all 11 have decided the same way. So nobody can make any arguments now about about different justices ruling different ways.
I think both me and Ben think this is a really good thing because you're not going to have a sort of American-style politicization of judges where some are seen as Brexit judges and some are seen as Remainer judges. Instead, they all now just seem like, justices who are following the law impartially and incontroversially. Yeah,
which is what Johnson was saying actually prior to the ruling, which was that he very much respected the United Kingdom's judiciary, and that a lot of people respected it from across the world. So he hasn't said similar things to sort of Trump in America about the impartiality of judges, and it is a different system, so that's probably one big reason why, completely different system. But yeah, he's said that he very much respects it and its impartiality. So yeah, they've all made the same judgment. So it seems it's unanimous in that decision. So they've now said that Parliament, Lady Hale has now said that Parliament can sit again. So the House of Commons and House of Lords can sit whenever they like, because the prorogation effectively is as if it never happened because it wasn't lawful. So it no longer stands. So John Bercow, Speaker of the House of Commons, has said that the MPs should try and sit in the House of Commons again as quickly as possible. So Zac, when's that meant to be?
Yeah, so they're returning. That was a nice little lead-in. They're returning tomorrow Wednesday at 11:30 in the morning, but there will be no PMQ, so no Prime Minister's questions, which are normally scheduled for Wednesdays at about that time.
Yeah, which was one of my first questions, which was going to be whether there was going to be Prime Minister's questions, but obviously there isn't.
In the light of that explicit judgment, I have instructed the House authorities to prepare, not for the recall, the prorogation was unlawful and is void, to prepare for the resumption of the business of the House of Commons. Specifically, I've instructed the House authorities to undertake such steps as are necessary to ensure that the House of Commons sits tomorrow and that it does so at 11:30 a.m. Will not be possible for there to be a Prime Minister's questions tomorrow.
And Johnson is currently in New York, so when the Supreme Court ruling came through, it was 5:30 in the morning in New York, which is a tough time
Yeah.
to get that sort of news.
It's not when you want it.
And we're not quite sure if we'll be flying back early, but he was scheduled to be back Wednesday anyway. So
Yeah.
he'll probably be there for it.
So yeah, this hasn't happened before. So other than Parliament sitting again, we're in completely uncharted territory. So we don't know what
we are.
the repercussions are going to be.
Who's calling for his resignation, Ben?
Yes, so we've got people calling for his resignation. So we've got Joe Swinson, leader of the Liberal Democrats. We have Nicola Sturgeon, who is the leader of the SNP. Ian Blackford, I think. Yeah, so I think he's also been saying things similar to that. And Jeremy Corbyn, leader of the Labour Party and the official UK opposition. Unsurprisingly, who gave a cheeky thumbs up at the party conference when he heard about the Supreme Court ruling. So yeah,
very cheeky.
There's a lot of talk at the minute about Johnson resigning. Me and you have both said, I think, that we don't think that that's going to happen. Did you say you did think it was going to happen?
No. Well, I think we both don't think it's going to happen. I think I'd stick with that as the line.
Yes, no, I certainly don't. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Parliament will resit and they will give him a little bit of a telling off. But other than that, I think he'll continue.
There were also some calls for Dominic Cummings to resign.
Yes.
Basically all the same people, plus Nigel Farage, who also asked for Cummings to resign.
So for those that don't know who Dominic Cummings is, he's the Director of Communications for Boris Johnson, who was also very influential in the 2016 Leave campaign. So he was a big figure there. And he was the person who supposedly advised Johnson to prorogue Parliament. So, there's been calls for him to go as well.
Yeah, but I think we both agree that also we don't think he'll resign either.
No.
So, a lot of noise, not much changes.
No.
In fact, maybe nothing changes because Johnson has refused to rule out proroguing Parliament again.
Yeah.
So, when he gets back, he might just prorogue all over again for a couple of days so he can get his Queen's speech through.
Yes, but the difference with him proroguing again would be that the reason that this one was unlawful was because of the reason behind the prorogation. So it was that people have sort of ruled that he was using it to try and stop debate around him trying to take the UK out of the EU on the 31st of October without a deal, or leaving that on the table. Because Parliament has already legislated and said that if in the middle of October he hasn't reached a deal, that he has to seek an extension from the European Union, so that we won't leave on the 31st without a deal. If he was to prorogue Parliament again, there wouldn't be a sort of solid ground to make the argument that he's proroguing Parliament to try and stop debate, because that debate's already happened and that bill is already in the statute book. It is already law that Johnson has to try and seek an extension to stop us leaving on the 31st with a no deal. So if he was to prorogue Parliament, he'd have more solid ground to claim that it was for a Queen's speech and so that he could set out his domestic agenda.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's what's happened today with the Supreme Court and the ruling. There will be a link to the podcast, and as I say, this isn't going to be the norm. It is only because Jack is on his well-deserved holiday, and he isn't making a video today. So we thought instead of just not putting anything up, we'd put this sort of short clip up on the main YouTube channel, just to explain what's happened. If you do want to hear more about this or more about the Lib Dem conference and what they've done there with supporting...
And the Labour conference.
Yeah. So the Lib Dem and Labour conferences.
And loads of other stuff.
The link to the podcast is in the description. So yeah, as I say, don't worry. This isn't going to be a normal thing on the channel. This is just a one-off.
As Ben just said, you can check out the podcast by searching for Too Long Didn't Read or TLDR News in your podcast app. Or you can find all the links over at tldrnews.co.uk/too long. We will of course keep you updated on this and everything else Brexit, so be sure to subscribe to our channel. You can also hit the bell icon if you want to be notified every time we release a video. And if you want more from us, you can find TLDR across all social networks simply by searching for TLDR News. And if you want your name featured at the end of the videos, just like these people, then you can sign up to back us on Patreon. There's a link to that in the description.